going to share with you a story. It's an absolute true story. It's a story that really has shaken me. In fact, I've been rehearsing this story over and over again because I have a goal today to get through this story without getting emotional, everybody. Does anybody believe that? Okay. We're still on the same page. In 1921, two young Swedish missionaries, David Flood and his wife Sevilla Flood, left everything they knew and traveled to the Belgian Congo with their small son. They were joined by another missionary couple believing God would move mightily in the Belgian Congo, but nothing went like they imagined. I mean, you've been there. Village after village rejected them, doors slammed shut, fear and hostility followed them everywhere they went. And eventually they settled near a village called the Dalera. But the chief in this village just absolutely strictly forbid them from speaking to anyone in the village. No preaching, no teaching, no ministry. Except they had one small opening. Once a week, the chief allowed one young Congolese boy to bring eggs and chickens to the missionaries. And Sevilla Flood, being there for a reason, decided that if she could only reach one soul, she would pour everything she had into that little boy. So she befriended the boy every time he would bring the chickens and eggs, and she loved him and she shared Jesus with him, and that little boy gave his life to Christ. But that was it. One convert, no church, no revival, no movement. Soon after, that missionary couple they went with, they left because they were discouraged, and David and Sevilla Flood stayed. And Sevilla became pregnant. And she gave birth to a beautiful baby girl, Ina. But shortly after, Sevilla died of complications, weakened by malaria. She was only 28 years old. They buried her right there in the village, marking her grave with a simple white cross. And David Flood was the husband. He was absolutely shattered, understandably, but he was convinced the mission had failed, and he became bitter towards God. He became an alcoholic. He became backslidden. He left Africa. He abandoned his faith, and he would live for years angry, broken, and convinced his obedience meant nothing. He made his way to the mission's house before he left Africa and knew that there's no way that the baby who was immune compromised could make it through the jungles to get home. So he left Ina with another couple in the Belgian Congo. And they began to raise Ina until she was 2 years old, and they both died. Then another couple came from America, and they began to raise Ina, and they would become her forever family. They made their way back to America, and fearing a custody battle if they ever went back to the Congo, they stayed in America. They made their way to Sioux City and planted the great Gospel Tabernacle Sioux City, which is now First Assembly of God Sioux City. And they renamed Ina at a very young age, an American name, Aggie. Aggie went on to marry a man named Dewey Hurst, and they became the presidents of North Central University. So decades later, this baby girl, now grown and now known as Aggie, was serving in ministry with her husband. They were leaders of this incredible university. And one day, completely unexpectedly, Aggie received a magazine in Swedish. She didn't know where it came from. She didn't know how she got it. And she could not read it. But as she flipped through the pages, her eyes locked onto a photograph, a white cross in an African village. And that cross said the name Sevilla Flood. She knew that was her biological mother's name, and Aggie became very kind of figuring out what did this article say. So she ran across campus. She was trying to find anyone who could translate the article. And finally, a professor read it and said words that would change her life. This article was about young missionaries to the Belgian Congo. They had only one convert, a little boy. Sevilla, the missionary, died in childbirth. But that was not the end of the story. The article went on to explain that little boy grew up. He started a school. He led all the children in the school to Christ, then the parents to Christ. Then he led that chief that forbid the floods from talking to anybody to Christ. And where there were 0 believers, there were now 600 followers of Jesus. The whole village was following Jesus because of that little boy. And it all traced back to one woman, one conversation, one conversion, and one child. Years later, Aggie and her husband, the college presidents, made their way to London to attend a leadership conference with Billy Graham. And one of the speakers at that time, he was the national church leader of Africa. Africa's really big. But he was from that area that Aggie's biological parents had ministered. So Aggie waited in line afterwards. Her heart was really pounding. And when she finally reached him, she asked, "Sir, do you know David and Sevilla flood?" The man broke down and he said, "Do I know them? Your parents are our heroes. Your mother's grave is still there and people still visit it." Then he looked at her and he said words no one could have imagined. He said, "Aggie, I am the little boy. I was the one convert. And now there are 110,000 followers of Jesus because of the seed of your mom." Isn't that amazing? That was at that time. Today, over 103 million people in the Republic of Congo profess to be Christians. The rest of the story, as I've read it, is Aggie tracked down her father. He was still alive. And she tracked down her siblings and had a conversation with them, was able to visit her father, David Flood, at about 73 years old, or maybe a little older. And her siblings told her, "Whatever you do, don't bring up God, because he's so bitter towards God that he'll immediately shut down and he won't talk to you if you bring up the name of God." So she walks into this little apartment where David Flood was living alone. It was run down. There was alcohol bottles scattered everywhere. He's still bitter towards God and he's dying. And she walks in and he sees her face and he says, "Ina." And she says, "Papa." And they're reunited. And she sits down and she rubs his face and he says, "Ina, I never meant to give you up." And she said, "It's okay, Papa. God took care of me." And he reclused and he turned towards the wall and he said, "God's never taken care of anybody. God left us to die." And she didn't pull back. She pushed forward. And she said, "No, Papa, God took care of us. And let me tell you a story." And she began to tell David all these years later, as he died in that apartment alone, an alcoholic. She told him about the white cross, about the boy, about the thousands, and the man who believed his life had been wasted and that moment gave his life back to Jesus. At that conference, that national church leader in Africa insisted Aggie go visit what would now be the Dominican Republic of Congo, and that's Aggie Hurst. Used to be Ina Flood in front of her mom's grave. Isn't that amazing? I tell you that true story to tell you this. Heaven measures success differently than we do. You may see one seed, but God sees generations. And here's what you have to understand. Obedience is never wasted, even when it feels invisible. You may never live long enough to see what your faithfulness releases on the earth. Isn't that amazing? Sevilla Flood never saw the harvest in earth. She saw it in heaven. But heaven saw it. And because she said yes, millions now say yes to Jesus. So I want to preach to you today this message title, "It Will Be Worth It." God never wastes obedience. Not one prayer, not one tear, not one act of faith, not one seed sown in weakness. In fact, the Word of God says in 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 58, therefore, my beloved brothers, be steadfast, be immovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord, knowing that in the Lord your labor is not in vain. And this morning, I just came to tell somebody that what heaven has already settled, it will be worth it. You might not see it yet. You might not feel it yet. You might not understand it yet. But just like the prophet Isaiah said in chapter 55, for my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. And when God asks something of you, He never asks in vain. Let me give you a few quick things. Number one, I think it's worth it to serve. It's worth it to serve. And some of you in our church, or a lot of you, are already serving. The amount of the statistic of the amount of percentage of people that serve in our church is just incredible. And so, but some of you are serving and nobody sees it. And by the way, we need double the amount of people serving we have right now. People ask me all the time, man, are we ever going to add a service? I don't know. But if we do, it's got to be a pretty good time separation because we're a revival church and both services, we're going to be in revival and we're going to get in the altars. Come on, somebody. But we got to have double the amount of volunteers we have right now to ever do that. So if you think, man, we ought to add a service because we're growing, well, then sign up for children's ministry, everybody. Come on. If we can double our kids workers, we can add a service. We can double our worship team, we can add a service. Why? Because people are more important than organization. I'm not going to tax people. Okay? So yeah, serving is vital to the life and growth of the church and the life and growth of the kingdom, but it's way more vital for you. And some of you, you're serving and you feel like nobody sees it. And you unlock the doors and you stack chairs and you change diapers and you show up early and you leave late. You pray for people who never say thank you. Come on, somebody. And what happens is the enemy begins to whisper to you, what's the point? But Jesus said in Matthew chapter 6, verse 4, your Father who sees in secret will reward you. Serving is never about visibility. It's about obedience. Come on. Jesus himself said in Mark chapter 10, verse 45, for even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve. And I promise you, it'll be worth it. It'll be worth it. It's worth it to serve. It's worth it to give. It's worth it to give. Giving is really easy, actually, when it's convenient. But giving is faith when it's costly. Right? When it's costly. And man, some of you in this church, you're so generous and you're giving when it stretches you. You're giving when logic says hold back. You're giving when fear says save it. But you need to hear me clearly. I believe with all my heart in 2 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 6, whoever sows sparingly will reap sparingly, and whoever sows bountifully will also reap bountifully. It's a promise from heaven. And here's what I know. What you give may leave your hand, but it never leaves God's memory. Isn't that amazing? It'll be worth it. It'll be worth it. When I give to the kingdom, I'm not giving up money. I'm transferring it to a heavenly account, everybody. It will be worth it. This is not a money message. I'm just giving you some points I believe are vital to our Christian faith. Here's what I believe. It'll be worth it to go. It'll be worth it to serve. It'll be worth it to give. It'll be worth it to go. God still asks people to go. Not to another church, everybody. Don't be. That's what happened. I knew I wasn't supposed to be there. Well, God bless you. No, he's calling some of you to be missionaries. You just hadn't heeded the call yet. He's calling some of you to go reach the least, last, and lost in a different country, just like we talked about. But you know what? Sometimes we overcomplicate it. Some of you, he's just calling you to go into some hard conversations, to go into some broken relationships, to go into uncomfortable obedience, to go into places where results aren't guaranteed. I got those things in my life. I got relationships that are broken. I'm just like you. And I'm getting ready for this message. And even the past 2 weeks, I had to do some stuff about those. Why? Because God doesn't call spiritual leaders, and you're a spiritual leader, to have broken relationships. Doesn't mean relationships won't still be broken, but you got to do everything you can to mend them, right? That means apologize when you didn't do anything wrong. Spiritual leaders apologize first. Are you with me? Are you with me? So I had to do this as I was preparing for this. Man, I got some broken relationships. I had to reach out to some people. I had to apologize. And that brings freedom to your soul. So God's calling some of you to go into hard conversations, go into broken relationships, go into uncomfortable obedience of some things He's asking you to do. Go into some places where results aren't guaranteed. Start sharing your faith at your workplace, everybody. Now, I'm not saying be silly about it and be dogmatic. I'm just saying, listen, wear Jesus wherever you go. Come on, your actions speak louder than your words. Be a Christ follower, not just on Sundays, but Monday through Saturday. Jesus said it, right? Matthew chapter 28, go therefore and make disciples of all the nations. You know, faith was never about comfort. It was about calling. The writer in Hebrews said, by faith Abraham obeyed and he was called to go. And he went out not knowing where he was going. How? By faith. Man, if God is asking you to step out, He already knows how the story ends. Right? It will be worth it. It's worth it to stay faithful when you don't see results. It's worth it to stay faithful when you don't see results. I came to the church and we had a year-long pastoral transition. In fact, in April, Nicole and I have been here 10 years. We came in 2016. It'll be our 9th year as the lead pastors. We became the lead pastors in April 2017. So be here 10 years. And I want to tell you, if you were there then, well, I apologize. But whatever I did, I'm so sorry. And so, see? Practice what you preach, everybody. But, you know, we didn't grow the first year. We didn't grow the first 2 years. Come on. Can somebody amen me? Amen. We didn't grow the first 3 years. Amen. I mean, we grew in the opposite direction. I apologize. And I don't really get into numbers, but the spiritual health of our church is like it's never been before. But that took time. And that took effort, and that took a little toiling from volunteers and people sticking around and staying faithful and not seeing the results. And come on, everybody, it's hard to have revival when water's coming through the ceiling. I mean, it just really is. I promise you. You could say, well, that's not right. No, I promise you, it's right. When that water's coming through the ceiling, it is hard to get excited. All right? I promise. It's hard, but it's worth it. It's worth it to stay faithful when you don't see results. People ask me all the time across our state, man, what is happening at Generations Church? Let me just tell you, there's nothing special except that people just stayed. That's it. Come on, the worship's awesome. The preaching's mediocre. Come on, somebody. The volunteers are amazing. The staff is awesome. Come on. But there's nothing special except people stayed. The pastor stayed, the volunteers stayed, the staff stayed, the people who take out the trash stayed, the people who door greet stayed. Listen, a lot of people don't see the faithfulness of God on earth because they never stick around long enough to let it happen. That's the deal. I used to have people tell me, I can't wait to see this church full one day. Well, they left. I'm not downing them. I'm just saying that there's a lot of reward that comes with just staying. Just stay. It's worth it to stay faithful when you don't see the results. That's where many people quit. When prayers feel unanswered, when obedience feels unrewarded, when effort feels unnoticed. But Scripture never says we reap quickly. It says we reap if we do not what? Give up. And let us not, the writer to Galatians said, and let us not grow weary of doing good, for in due season we will reap if we do not faint or give up. Some seeds grow underground longer than others, everybody. So, some harvests are delayed, not denied. A delay does not mean a denial. In fact, James tells us in chapter 5, be patient, therefore, brothers, until the coming of the Lord. See how the farmer waits for precious fruits of the earth. See, just because you don't see it does not mean God is not working. It will be worth it. It's worth it to trust God with the outcome. See, we as humans, and I'm with you, we want results we can measure. Are you with me? But God works in results we may never see. And here's the deal. Faith is trusting God with the outcome even when He doesn't explain the process. What does Proverbs tells us? Trust in the Lord with all your heart. And then what does it say? Don't lean. You're going to lean on something. So don't lean on your own understanding. Right? Obedience is saying yes without needing proof. Romans chapter 8 verse 28 says, and we know, man, everybody say we know, that for those who love God, all things work together for good. See, God is far more committed to your obedience than He is to your comfort. Far more committed to your obedience than He is to your comfort. Hey, raise your hand. Well, I don't want to call people out, but would you help me with an illustration if you don't mind? You're not calling you out. I'm not saying your name, but raise your hand if you've come to our church in the last 3 months. The last 3 months. No, not. Shelly, you've been here a lot longer than 3 months. Raise your hand if you've come to our church in the last 3 months. Isn't that amazing? Do you see this? Isn't that amazing? Three months ago, my wife spoke to me a word that I thought was from hell. And she said, we're about to be in revival. We got to move to Guthrie. Look at all these people who have come in 3 months. And that's not all of them, by the way. Some of it was too cold this morning. No, I'm just... It's worth it. It's worth it. It's worth it to keep going. It's worth it to not quit. It's worth it to keep going. And let me just speak to somebody in here that maybe you're tired. And I get it. I've been there. You're not lazy. You're not weak. You're just tired. You've been carrying weight. You've been believing for God for things for a long time. You've been standing when it would be easier to sit down. But listen, hear the word of the Lord this morning. The prophet Isaiah in chapter 40, verse 31, but they who wait for the Lord shall renew their strength. So what does Hebrews say? Therefore, do not throw away your confidence, which has a great reward, for you have need of endurance. And I believe He'll give you that endurance. You didn't come this far to quit. You didn't sow this much to come to 2026 and stop before the harvest. You didn't do all you've done to begin to obey halfway now. And I just want to tell you this morning, if you're tired, man, if you're downtrodden, if it's overwhelming, if you think you don't want to do it anymore, you need to lift up your head. You need to strengthen your heart, but not with your strength, with His, because it will be worth it. Here's what I heard this quote this week and I loved it. Obedience echoes longer than life. Obedience echoes longer than life. What does that mean? Well, to me, it means that faith outlives frustration. Seeds outlast seasons. God finishes what He starts. Are you with me? Right? Philippians chapter 1, verse 6. He who began a good work in you will bring it to completion. Right? So what does that mean? Serve. Give. Go. Stay faithful. Trust Him. And when the enemy of your soul whispers it's pointless, you answer back with the truth from heaven. It will be worth it.